how I found my perfect retirement home. As you can see behind me, I've been here for almost 2 years now, and this is a comment I've got quite frequently in the comments to some of my videos. How'd you find the place you lived at? Well, here you go, I'll tell you. Let me give you a little background first. So I lived in Los Angeles for 30 years, absolutely loved it. Great place to live, but I knew on my moderate retirement budget, I couldn't afford to buy a place in LA. Now, I had bought and sold 2 homes in the last 20 years in LA. Absolutely loved it. But again, I knew I couldn't afford it. So I rented for the last 6 or 7 years before I retired. And I didn't want to go into retirement paying rent. You know, if I was going to purchase a place, even on my moderate income, I wanted it to go towards something, towards the future, where 20 years from now, I can go, hey, I got some pretty good assets. So yeah, that's what I wanted to do. So how did I go about doing that? Well, the first thing is I looked at vacant land. Sorry, I'm looking at my notes. I can't even read. Do I need a new prescription? I think I do. I looked at vacant land in Los Angeles because I knew I couldn't just buy a house, right? I looked at vacant land in some of the areas I wanted. Now, my primary thing was I wanted a place with a view. And as you can see, I got it. But looking at land in Los Angeles, I mean, land on its own in the places that I wanted to live. Now, of course, I wasn't going to live on the west side anywhere. You know, West LA, Brentwood, Beverly Hills, Bel Air, even Santa Monica, stuff like that. Even the South Bay, like the beaches, you know, Hermosa Beach, Manhattan Beach. I could never afford that. I could never afford just getting vacant land there. So I was looking for vacant land in some of the okay neighborhoods of LA, but it had a great view. Even the vacant land on its own, even with access to water, power already provided, I still couldn't afford that. So I was like, okay, so what do I do? I started looking for land, and this was after looking at all different kinds of vacant land within the LA metro region, you know, or just outside. Couldn't find it. So I started looking on Realtor.com, and I'll tell you guys, for me, that's the best site I found for homes or land in general, Realtor.com. So I started looking for affordable land with a view. I was getting all different kinds of areas. You know, I was getting areas, the cheapest land I found, and homes for that matter, was up either in Northern California by the Oregon border or out in some parts of the high desert around here. You know, here I say outside of Los Angeles, you know, east. I was looking east, I was looking south, I was looking north. And my original idea was to buy a tiny house and just plop it on a piece of land. Easy, right? Hey, you get a tiny house, you're all self-sufficient, and you just plop it on a piece of land. Done deal. Yeah, not so easy. So I was finding a lot of land that was cheap. I looked up in, where did I look? I looked all over the place. I found actually this one area. Yes, I know. Did you find one too? My ravens are so inquisitive. I found a nice piece of land in Tehachapi, which is just north of LA. $15,000, little less than an acre, maybe 3/4 of an acre. Nice view. You know, I could buy my little tiny house for whatever, I don't know, $50,000, somewhere between $50,000 to $100,000, plop it on that $15,000 piece of land and go. Yeah. Had no access to water, had no access to electricity. So I found out that where I was living, the water was going to cost about $50,000 just to provide the access to the land. Okay, bad enough, right? I found the electricity, because of the location of, you know, my plot of land, was going to cost minimum $125,000 to get electricity on that land. because they had to put up, I think it was 2 or 3 power poles, and every 100 feet you get charged a certain amount. And then there's the cost of putting the power poles down on that vacant land. So I was quickly educated that it's not as easy as plopping a tiny house down on a piece of land. And hey, for those of you looking at me for the first time, this is a channel on moderate retirement. If you think you might be interested in that, think about subscribing and like the video as well. So yeah, that quickly talked me out of that. Couldn't do it. So what did I do then? I started looking again on Realtor.com, the best site I've found for what I did. I started looking for cheap places to buy. And again, they were in those same areas. Extreme Northern California, up by, like, if any of you are familiar with it, like Weed, Mount Shasta. Some places, there were some kind of undesirable spots, like around the Salton Sea. Didn't really want to go into that. Other places in the high desert, which is where I've eventually settled on. So I looked at all kinds of different places in the high desert. All right. What I did is I put in an offer on a place in this area that you see. And you know what, guys? Thank God I didn't get it, because it was a lot cheaper than what I eventually paid for this place. But looking back on it, you get all caught up in like the whole heat of the moment, right? So this guy put in a bid, I put in a bid. I would have paid more than I should have for that place because it needed a lot of work. Had a great view. The view was actually similar to this right here. So it had a great view, but it needed a lot of work. Yeah, could you live there? Sure, you could live there, but you'd have to do a lot of improvements. It was also higher up from the lake, higher up than I am now. So for me to the place down below, you see the town, it's maybe about a mile, maybe a quarter of a mile. That other place would have been like 2 miles. And what I found out later on, thank God I did, is they didn't pave that road. Or excuse me, they didn't plow that road in the winter from snow. It doesn't snow up here a lot, but when it does, if it's not plowed, yeah, not good. So thank God I got outbid for that. I put in a bid on another place, probably about 5 miles from where I am now. Beautiful little A-frame place that I actually got the bid. I won. And then I started thinking about it. It had a good view, but the view wasn't like what I got here. Not close. So about a week into it, I stumbled across this listing. And all it took was one look at the views, guys, and I was sold. So I backed out of that offer. Thankfully, they had multiple bidders, so it wasn't a problem like, leaving the seller high and dry. And I went up to visit this place. I'm telling you, from the moment I stepped on this property, I was sold. I told myself, I don't care what it takes. I don't care if this home is basically ready to fall down. I'm getting this place just for the view. And I did. And I'm so thankful I did. All told, it took about 6 months of looking on Realtor.com, which again, I give the highest ratings because they came back with the most properties, especially the most properties after I put in my input, what I was looking for. 6 months until I finally got this place. And I am so glad I did. I mean, it's perfect for me, the perfect retirement home for me. Thank God the house itself was in really good shape. Before this, the owner used it as an Airbnb. So everything was all pretty much up to date, ready to go. So yeah, I'm very happy with where I ended up. But let me put a caveat in there. One thing to do when you're looking for a place is make sure that my ravens are swarming all over the place today. Make sure that you know yourself. I've heard horror stories of people relocating to different areas when they retire and they get there 6 months into it, a year into it, can't stand it for whatever reason. There are some drawbacks, especially for me, moving out of Los Angeles, with so many options, anything you want to do, you can. to a rural area where there aren't many options. And I'm telling you, if I didn't go back and forth to LA every couple weeks to see my girlfriend, I don't know if I could do this 24/7. It's very quiet. Again, there aren't very many options. There aren't. There's about, I don't know, 2, 3, 4,000 people are in the area that I live. Not many people that you can go out and just meet. Hey, Los Angeles, you're walking on the street, you meet someone. Not many things to do. At my age of 61 right now, I still got a lot of energy. So I'm not going to sit around and do nothing all day long. So if I didn't have the option of going back and forth to Los Angeles every couple weeks, I'm up here 2 weeks, I'm down there 2 weeks. I don't know if I could do it. So know yourself, guys, before you commit to a place. That's the biggest piece of advice I can give you. Okay? Luckily, I got the best of both worlds. I've got peace and quiet here. And what I want, and when I'm craving, the LA thing of all kinds of options, whatever you want to do, it's time for me to head down and visit my girlfriend. Once I'm there for a week and a half, whatever, I get tired of the traffic. I get tired of all the people. I get tired of the attitudes. I'm craving coming back up here again. So I got the best of both worlds. But just know yourself before you make the leap. All right? So that's my story. And just remember, guys, hey, research, research, research. That's what it takes in finding a home in retirement and just retirement in general. And if you do that, we got this.